No matter highfalutin, lazy, or foo-foo America gets, we will never stop hunting and fishing. This is The Hunting Quest.
The Hunting Quest.
We take 1 hour of every week and talk about our favorite things in the world, hunting and fishing. You'll get tips and help on the fishing environment locally in the DMV area. Plus, we're going to have fun along the way. This is The Hunting Quest. And now your hosts, Mike Tippin and Mark Davis.
All right. Well, welcome to the podcast. We're glad everybody's listening, and hope everybody's doing well. And how was your week?
Third episode, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, yep. Third episode.
Third episode. Should be fourth, but it's a third. So we're getting there. So hopefully you guys heard the intro. We're working on that a little bit too.
Yep.
We'll find out afterwards. So,
And this time we'll actually have audio files so that we can upload them to Anchor. So you don't have to watch us. You can actually listen to us, hopefully on your choice of whatever podcast that you listen to.
whatever multimedia platform you prefer. I don't
There you
know.
go.
There'll be all kinds of ways to listen to it.
Yep.
But if you need to just listen to it on YouTube too, just don't look at it.
Yeah.
I actually do that a lot in the car. Books on tape, things like that. They'll be
yeah.
uploaded on YouTube.
That's the only
and
way I
I'll
can do
just put them on and just put the screen down because it's not like it's really showing any video, and then I can listen to things. So there's plenty of ways to do it. A lot of times I know people listen to podcasts and stuff in the car on the way into work.
Yeah. I'm an
So-
Audible fan. Books on tape type deal. Oh, the new version of Books on Tape.
Mm-hmm.
People don't know what Books on Tape were.
I gotta imagine. I mean, it's a book on tape. I can't imagine that complicated. But yeah, no, I do. I've listened to quite a few books that way, but
It's the only
Not
way
too
I get
bad.
time. And
it's a good way for me to kind of listen to something, but not be too in depth in it. Where
Yep.
I'm driving and listening.
you can listen. You don't have
Kind
to
of get
like,
into
listen,
it, but you don't have to get super into it. So a lot of times reading just zones you out. So
Yeah.
so it's this weekend coming up. We're going
Bow fishing.
bow fishing tomorrow.
Right.
Tomorrow evening, somewhere in we'll call it Southern Virginia-ish.
I guess. Well,
We're not really sure a couple places we might go. I guess they're going to call it
one of three.
at the last minute.
Yeah, 1 of 3. I think he's going to try to go figure out what it is. You know, where's the best spot, and kind of like ducks. You know, when you go out on a duck hunt or something like that, you don't know where you're going to hunt until they tell you to show up here. And this, you know, that's normally the day of. So,
Yeah, I've gone with guides before where they said, here's a general area.
yep,
We're going to fish 1 of 3 spots.
Yep.
You get your hotel here.
Yep.
Plan to be within, 30 minutes, and we're going to go at,
X time.
6 in the morning, but it's going to be one of these 3 locations. And they usually know like the next day beforehand, depending on what's going on. So I'm assuming that's kind of what we're going to happen. Now, did he say we're specifically going to be targeting snakehead, correct? But
He
we're
said
going
we could target goldfish if we wanted
but
to.
we could get whatever is what
Yeah,
we're going to do. So I guess
absolutely.
we'll see what really winds up being out there.
Yeah.
And that's another discussion too that I've never really understood. And maybe after this is over, we can talk some more about bow fishing in general. But I
Yeah.
don't understand sometimes some of the stuff that like the bycatch and some of it. Like I've always been more of a sportsman
Right. Yeah.
towards fishing and hunting, and not so much of a wasteful person. I've never killed anything just let it lay, or,
Right. No.
or killed fish for no reason or anything like that, or at least not on purpose.
Right. Of course.
But I see a lot of in bow fishing. It almost seems like they're just killing stuff to kill stuff, and maybe that's just me being lack of educated on it. And that's something I'm really curious to find out, and maybe we'll find more about tomorrow. Like I know there are some people that eat carp and things like that. Of course, there's always going to be some people that eat things like bluefish or catfish. But
Yeah, you're gonna catch hate for that one again. Just so you know.
but there are people that eat them. But I know that a lot of these guys go out and they're killing them for the sport of just getting.
Yeah,
I don't know. I know that out west, they have a lot of those weird invasive carp.
Yep.
I know that around here, some of the catfish may not be invasive.
Not according to.
No, but do you remember how there were some that
yeah.
they were considered invasive
Oh,
and
yeah,
some that
yeah,
weren't?
yeah.
And I think some of that even goes down to just population control. There's
Yeah.
too many.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see if maybe that's part of the reason they do it. I noticed other guys, stingrays. They'd be out there shooting a lot of stingrays. And we recently saw
Yeah,
where
we caught hell on
someone-
Instagram for posting that.
someone
so.
had posted a stingray picture and was upset about the guy killing a stingray just to kill it. And I have to say this first off, I have no idea what they did with that stingray.
Right. No.
It was just a really cool photo.
Yeah.
They could have very well eaten it.
Yeah.
You hear a lot about the difference between bay scallops and sea scallops.
Yep.
And people say that's a skate or a type of ray. Every ray that I ever caught, that I ever saw the flesh of, was like a red flesh.
Yeah.
Not a white
Not a
flesh.
white
So
flesh,
I'm
yeah.
not really sure. And yet again, this is things that I'd like to maybe find out. Maybe find out this week.
Yeah.
More about. So that's something that I've always been curious to know. And if anybody knows anything about that, or you have a big background in bow fishing, I'd love to hear your comments on that.
Yeah.
And see
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
going on. And
Yeah.
that's something we'll find out. We go out if it's just to to kill, just to do it. I don't know. But that's
No, I'm not. It's not my deal, right? But all right. So there's a bigger aspect to this, and I was thinking about when we were talking about beforehand. You look at people who do like the big game hunting. Are you going to eat a giraffe? No. Are you going to eat a rhino? No. That's trophy hunting. I mean, that's legit trophy hunting.
100%.
So maybe it's the same aspect, but I mean, I'm not having a gigantic skate mounted or giant stingray mounted on my wall. Nor would I. I don't. It's not my. I don't think that's ethical to me. But shooting something for the sake, just like you said, for the sake of shooting something, not worth it to me. If you're gonna catch it, you're gonna do some biological research on it and then turn it back. Cool. Get your pictures, throw it back in the water. I'm good with that. It's not my world, right? I'm right there with you.
There's a really interesting thing that I happened to read today, and we just spoke about in the Midwest, where they have the flying carp,
Yep.
the Asian carp, and ironically, they don't jump out of the water in Asia. It's an American thing
I
that
didn't
they
know
fly
that.
out. Yeah, it's a genetic issue. They've been trying to figure out why it is that they speak so easy. So
There's a lot of funny videos about it.
most likely what happened was that some of the fish that first came to breed had a issue with them, a deficiency.
Sure.
They made them jump, and that bred into them.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the Asian carp that fly here, they don't jump over there,
Right.
which is really weird. That's a whole other subject, but I think that's really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
But they are such a nuisance that you've seen the pictures, we've all seen the videos. You can't drive a boat, you can't
Right.
water ski, you can't
Yeah.
tube, you can't do anything. There's so many.
Yeah.
They're killing the market. Well, what some companies are doing now that's really, really neat, and I want to look into it more. I read a little article about it. They are going out and they are catching them, and they're using them for dog and cat food.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm a firm believer. You tell somebody, hey, look, we can, this is an invasive species. People will figure out a way to get rid of it and use it. I mean,
Well, it's really funny because we were talking about snakehead. Snakehead always gets brought up.
Right.
Snakehead's a real trigger sensitive thing. People think it's
I hate
some
that word, just so you know.
crazy
Trigger.
monster that's crawling from pond to pond or whatever.
Right.
Really, it's kind of wiggling and flopping around. It just happens to breathe air.
Right.
And I think by the look of it, it's intimidating. So I think it catches a lot of that. So people are really quick to talk about that. Well, that's a great invasive species as far as giving reason to control.
Yeah.
Because people are going to eat it. People
Yeah.
like it. Once you have it once and you get past it,
Yep.
you're going to want to eat it. So it gives people a reason to target that fish.
Sure.
A lot of things, there is no reason to target that fish.
Well, lionfish. I mean, like lionfish. They have a lionfish rodeo in Florida. They've done a pretty good job of knocking those back. But people figured out how to cook them. So,
No, but that's a perfect example. So we always bring up snakehead because of what it looks like, and people talk about it. But it's really funny because you think of conservation on these things.
Yeah.
Here you have a fish, and I could go into some of the reasons why, but here you have a fish that we are aggressively going after, and
Right.
people are fishing for them rod and reel.
Yep.
People are bow fishing for it. People are catching them however they can, and they are just slaughtering them. And when they catch them, they generally killing them. I mean,
Oh,
not
yeah.
even putting them back, even if they don't eat them, which is
Right.
fine. It's invasive. It's
well,
what
for
you
a
do.
long time, that's what they were supposed to do.
Yeah,
Right?
Now, I think now they say if you don't want to, but I still think you should.
Right.
But my thing is this: here's a fish that's being targeted like crazy, and then we have stuff in our ecosystem that's just declining, and they're not letting you keep any of it. So it's really funny to see the balance. Now, part of the snakehead fish reason, and this is really interesting, is it actually protects its young.
Oh yeah.
So it'll school the young together, and
Yep.
both parents will swim with it. So instead of having 5 fry out of the 1,000,
No, you're getting
they're up
1,000.
to like 50% of them
Yeah.
are making it. And I don't know what those exact numbers are, but
Yeah.
you got to assume it's
up there.
highly.
Oh yeah. I mean, as fast as people are killing these things, and we haven't made a dent. I mean, not even close. I mean, you can go out and devastate, pull in 50 of them in a night, and you haven't made a dent in the population at all. At least it seems like. I don't know.
It's funny because they grow area.
Sure.
They're everywhere. They're all
Yeah.
over the place. Every time wherever you go, you turn another here, another here, another here, another here now. And I think that's part of the issue. But it's still at the same time, I don't know. And I'd like to see some more studies. I feel like they almost don't do as much with it as they used to.
Yep.
But really, at what rate is this? Past fear mongering, past saying you need to kill these things because they're going to destroy the ecosystem.
Right.
I'd really like to see what they're doing because,
Yeah.
yet again, it's not like you're going out there and I'm seeing everything disappear. It's not like, oh, all the bluegill are gone, the bass are gone, this
Right.
are gone.
I mean, the fishery still seems thriving.
So
you know,
I don't know. It's kind of hard to.
Yeah, and DWR, at least from Virginia, have I've read as much as I really wanted to read on their how the fisheries are. I mean, most of the time I focus on freshwater, whatever, largemouth, smallmouth, and how that fishery's doing. But obviously, they don't post anything about snakeheads as far as other than it's an invasive species. What's the count? At least nothing that I've been able to find. So maybe we'll try to hunt down some type of a biologist that's local and see what we can come out.
Well, isn't it? It's season right now for that. It's our open forum right now, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
So that's funny that you should ask or you should talk about that. I am a big fan, and DWR has opened up their public comment. So there's a lot of people either don't know about it or they don't participate for whatever reason. And I find it really hard to understand this because you have so many people who will comment on an Instagram picture, but they won't go out and bitch to DWR about the future policies, right? So what that's going back and look for those of you who really want to know and care about knowing, and I strongly encourage you to get involved with this, is DWR has come out and they've got their public comment open, and the comments that they're taking are based off of the aquatic life, water life, fishing, things like that, boating permits, proposed regulations and amendments for all of that stuff is how the fisheries are going to be looked at for you and I as a non-commercial fishery to go out and enjoy fishing or how difficult it's going to be, how hard it's going to be to get a permit, what boats get permitted. And this is an opportunity for everybody to go out and bitch or suggest something.
Have your voice heard.
Yeah. And be an active member, active person in the fishery and rules, regulations, how it's governed, things like that. So I'm a firm believer. If you're not going to participate, don't bitch. Don't come up and talk about stuff. You don't have, you really have no say so if you didn't participate in an opportunity to change it. So I don't know, just my 2 cents. Got
It's a lot like
my soapbox.
It's not like voting.
It is.
You know what I mean?
I
If you're
agree.
going to sit there and complain about politics and then you never voted.
Yeah.
What's the point? I think
Yeah.
that it's really good that they have this period of open forum where
Yep.
you can discuss things and make suggestions and have comments.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's not something that all states have. It's not something that all
No.
regulatory places do.
No. And we're very lucky to have that opportunity.
And I feel like if they're going to have it, they're probably going to have some listening to you. I'm not saying everything you say is going to happen.
Yep.
But they do probably put in something too, like some of the things we discussed, maybe things that we can mention on there.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, I mean, to get to it is really, really easy. If you Google, Virginia DWR public comment, it'll come up and it'll tell you, it's open. It opened June 11th and it closes July 26th. So, it's not forever open, but you can go in, you can find it, Google it. It's really easy. It's got a good link to it. And it's pretty self-explanatory once you hit it. Click on the subject line and go from there. So, and again, we are very fortunate that they give us that opportunity to provide comment. Now, whether or not they listen to it or not, I would hope that somebody somewhere has that job of having to read these comments.
It is difficult though, in the area that we live.
Yeah,
And not necessarily not where we actually live, not in actually like this part of Northern Virginia, but in the DC metro area in
Right.
general, we're a lot in the tributary
Yeah.
of the Chesapeake Bay.
Sure.
And the rivers come off. And I think that people forget there's so many different laws and regulations
Yep.
and groups and enforcement. And like people forget that I think like most of the Potomac, if not like is owned by Maryland, and then anything that's in the shoreline side of it is owned by Virginia on the Virginia side.
Yep.
The Chesapeake Bay, most of it all north, except for the very bottom, is all owned by Maryland. So, and then the bottom part's by Virginia, but the other, it all depends. So, you've got all these different groups making all these different regulatory things. And
Right.
a lot of times people are like, oh, well, I don't like this. Well, it's not necessarily your state. It could even be, you live on that side over there. It's a Maryland thing.
Yeah.
So it's really hard a lot of times for people to figure that out. And a really good example of that is years ago, I was fishing down in Point Lookout,
Right.
which is the very tip of St. Mary's County, very bottom of Southern Maryland, on the west coast, not the eastern shore.
Sure.
But so it goes all the way down, and it's where the Potomac and the Bay meet. And we were out there fishing, and we were literally on the very end of the peninsula. There's a lighthouse there, state park, Point Lookout State Park.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've never been there. I heard it's really cool.
Oh, really cool place. Really, a lot of history. Great place to fish. Yeah, I haven't been there in a while. It's become a little more serious over the years. There's so much people coming. Before it used to just be more laid back, but
Sure.
it's a cool, big fishing pier. Great place to go. So I don't know what the regulations are now, but it used to be really easy to fish. Over the years, they got a little more picky on it. But the point I was getting at was that we were fishing, and I don't know, about it was summertime, so probably about 7:00, we caught a striper,
Cool.
and it was within whatever the length was at the time, and
Yeah.
not this big, but not this small, and whatever it was. So we put it in the cooler, and my friend was going to keep it, and I said, "Hey, you needed to do something with that fish." And he was like, "Why?" And I was like, "Well, because if we're going to be here past 12 tonight, at 12:00, or whatever it was, or whatever the rule was, you can't have that fish after this time."
Right.
And he's not from here; he's from New York, and he says, "Oh yeah, no, that all doesn't make any sense. You know what you're talking about." And I said, "Yeah, it doesn't make sense, but I'm telling you, you can't keep him after 12:00. If you call it with it, you're in trouble." And he just doesn't believe me. So whatever, we don't really think much of it. I'm sitting in the cooler fishing, and all of a sudden I hear these guys coming, walking towards us, and I look over, and it's a couple Rangers, and I was like, "Oh, here we go." So they go, "Did they catch anything?" I was like, "Oh, no, not really." And he's like, "Oh, can I look at your cooler?" I was like, "I caught a striped bass." And he opens it up, and the fish is in there. And he pulls it out, and he's like, you can't have this fish." And I'm like, "Oh, I know you can't have this fish. I'm just trying to tell people it shouldn't be here."
I told him.
But I'm sitting on the cooler. So
Oh yeah. No.
I was
it's
like,
literally your ass.
I was like, yeah, pretty much. And I was like, "Yeah, well, I caught it at 7:00, which is true, And he goes, "Well, you can't have the fish." And I said, "Well, what am I supposed to do with that?" And he's like, "You go home." And I was like, "Well, I knew that was the answer." So the other ranger looks at him, and he says something, and the guy says something, and he was like, "Well, I guess if it is on the riverside." And I was like, "What?" They talked for a minute, and he's like, "Well, that side's the bay, and that side's the Potomac, and technically the regulation defends with the bay and not with the Potomac. So you call the Potomac side, so technically, yeah, you're okay." And I was like, "What?" So that just shows you how literally had we been 50 feet difference, and I've been on the other side of the shore, this side of the shore, then I don't know. I don't think they were going to write me a ticket in general. I think if they wanted to, they were going to do it anyways.
Right.
But
You
it just
pretty much
shows
know
you
you're
that
getting that
were.
ticket.
But that's a weird regulation. Like he was saying, technically this was not caught in the bay, and that regulation deals with the bay and so on and so forth, but not the Potomac.
Right.
So it becomes these really complicated things all the
Yep.
times when you're out there, and every estuary is different, and everything so impacts. And
Yep.
that was another thing when I was young. I remember they always used to change the striped bass laws.
Oh yeah.
They were always changing. Well, not laws, but
No. Yeah. The regs.
the
and,
regs.
yeah.
So they were constantly changing time of night. You could keep them, size you keep them, this and the other, and it was to regulate blue crab numbers.
Right.
And then they would get the crabs would go down when the fish went up, and then when the crab numbers went down, then they would take the fish regulations away, and the stripes would feed more on the crabs, and it was like this back and forth cycle where it never got handled, and it kind of reminds me of when they talk about, was it Australia, where they were putting animals to eat snakes, and then they have a run-in of this and that, and you can't fix one by doing the other. So sometimes I really wonder where the actual science is in a lot of this, or if it's just politics or someone trying to come up with something to look good at the end of the year.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, and I think that's we probably need to research finding a good biologist for this area and see what they've got, what they can tell us a little bit more about. So I don't know. Well, let me finish up on this subject because we got some other areas that I know we wanted to cover today. But one of the things I really wanted to talk about was on this public comment that they've got up here. I'm looking at it now, and it's one of the things they talk about is taking a fish with bow and arrow or crossbow, right? So what, if you click on it, go in there, read it for yourself. They talk about You can't use an explosive tip. You can't use poisons. This is how many you can. I mean, and I laugh. I'm obviously somebody's tried it, or else they wouldn't be putting it in
Well,
there.
you see the
Yes.
the shark tips for the spear guns, so I guess maybe that's where that's coming from. Probably people tried to shoot carp with shotgun shells.
I
at
guess.
the end. I don't know.
And so they talk about that. They talk about carp regulations and things like that. But so that's one that obviously I want to focus on, and I'll definitely be commenting on that one. They talk about trot lines and jug lines and things like that. I don't really do
Never
that.
did jug line. That sounds kind of cool.
Never.
No, I've been trout fishing.
You don't
trout
eat
line,
catfish.
but it's true because they're gross. But that would be kind of fun to go track down your jugs afterwards.
Oh, it's so much fun. And it's if you could do it without a boat, it's a great drinking sport. It is an absolute. You just get smashed.
Jeez.
Or you have a designated boater who takes you around, and then you make an idiot of yourself pulling jugs in. But it's a lot of fun. It is. They do that a lot. Down south they do it for gar. A lot of gar, like big gar. They'll jug them, things like that. It's
Alligators.
Yeah. Well, most of the alligators aren't on jugs. They do that because they're just so powerful. They just eat the jug. I mean,
Well,
I
I
don't
watch
care,
a lot
but-
of those videos where people had a kayak and they're pulling the jug
yeah,
up.
Yeah, and I'm like,
He gets next to him. There's an alligator on it.
that's a dumbass. That's not a good day right there. Oh, what's on the? Oof. Yeah, no. But most of the folks that do that are going after gators and stuff like that, they talk about they've got them tied off to trees and things like that. And they'll pull trees up. I mean, there's some powerful animals. I mean, very very powerful. But yeah, so they talk about the bowfish stuff. They talk a lot of the stuff on here is like fire safety for boating and things like that, and life saving equipment. Okay, cool. I get that. Most of that's covered under Coast Guard regulations and things.
So
like
most
that.
of your stops in the water are going to be the safety inspections,
Right, exactly.
For that stuff.
But that gets you on.
well,
the
that's
boat,
your
right?
in. That's your.
You're in.
I've never been stopped for anything but a safety inspection.
Right.
But I've had him ask me a bunch of other questions.
Of course,
And it all starts as a safety inspection.
of course.
Hey, do you have your fire extinguisher? Do you have enough,
Yeah. Where's your
flare
PFDs?
device? Do you have enough
Yeah.
PFDs for all these people? And,
Yeah.
so on and so forth.
But the other two that actually kind of got me a little bit concerned was they talked about permits and the fees for miscellaneous permits. That's one that I didn't necessarily. Again, I'm not here to politicize anything. Just read it. See if it fits you. If you want to comment on it, comment.
Fishing licenses are expensive.
Yeah.
People don't realize, like, if you were to actually go and get, especially like Virginia, so Virginia's really big on that. If you were to go and get a license and you were to get every option,
Right.
trout stamps and all the different stamps and freshwater and tributary waters, I mean, it gets expensive
Oh, yeah.
fast. And I think, too, sometimes I think we tax the out-of-state ones so heavily because they're
Oh, yeah.
out of state that I think that sometimes it drives people away from actually coming
Agreed.
to fish. And I think that all the states kind of do that
Yep.
against each other.
Florida does a good job with it though.
Oh my gosh! So I went down to Florida and I bought one, and it was like $70 for 3 days or
Yeah.
something. It
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
even for yeah.
And it really depends on what you're fishing. Saltwater, but they kind of get away with a little bit on, it's a little bit more of an encouragement to go and say, hey, look, as a saltwater, if you're fishing saltwater, you can go out on a 6-pack with a 6-pack captain license and go from there. So, that's kind of one of the cool things that, you don't have to buy the license there, which is cool. And it promotes you going out to get a captain and, charter service and all that stuff. But I can tell you, $1,000 a pop, to rent a boat out, $1,600, and, gas prices keep going up. You're going to be looking at, $2,000 by the end of the summer, to take a charter boat out. And is it worth doing that or going to spend $70 on a 3-day fishing license to fish off a bridge somewhere?
Well, it's funny too because when I was growing up, we always got a license for the boat.
Oh, yeah.
So it covered everything to the boat, and then they gave you one hard copy for whoever's filling it out. So if you went and did it for the boat, you got yours, and the boat was good to go, which was always really nice because you didn't have to worry about anybody. But out of all the years that I ever fished, I don't think I ever had on the shore all the time. I had Department of Natural Resources check me all the time.
Right.
On a boat, I don't think they ever asked me once. I don't think I ever got stopped. I mean, they could probably see the sticker on the side of the boat, anyways. But yeah, I never got boarded and asked about fish. It was always about safety stuff and had you been drinking, which I guess is probably more of a concern they have out there. But
to me, I'm all right with that. If you're going to be on the water and you're going to be drinking, you better not be driving. I mean,
but I will say, if I pulled over on the side of the road and fished in a stream that went under, it was like 20 minutes and there was some DNR guy
DNR
behind me.
guy
Hey,
right
you got your
behind
fish
you.
license? I'm
Yep.
like, where did you come from? So
You know,
I don't know. I don't follow this. That's their job. They do what they do. They've always been really nice for the most part. I had a couple guys that weren't the best.
I can say every interaction I've had in Virginia with game wardens been a positive one.
Most of mine were in Maryland. Like I said, a couple that weren't the best, but for the
Right.
most part, they were all pretty.
I've run into other game wardens in other states that I hunt in pretty often. Look, I get it. I mean, the highest casualty rate in law enforcement is game warden. You're there by yourself. You're doing your thing, and every person that you interact with, well, almost every person you interact with is going to be armed. I'd be a little leery too, but I think there's a positive way that, the ones that I have, I mean, there's a power trip, I think, with a lot of game wardens. There's also a direct, the direct confrontation. They want to make sure that that you understand that they are the, that you are the guy. They are in charge, not you. Do what you say. Do what they say. And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that there's one, maybe two in the entire county, and the one or two that are in the county, they've got to look out for themselves. They got to make sure that they're okay, and that's a tough one. But again, going back to Virginia. Never had a bad experience. Now, knock on wood, I'll have, hopefully I won't run into that. But, my game warden experiences are, I try to stay on, by the law, and, you do what you're supposed to do. Most of the time they won't hassle you. So, but it does suck when you're, fish are on the bite and then you see them coming. You're like, oh crap, man, everything's biting and they're going to come up. Nothing's going to come up anymore. And this is just going to suck. So I don't know. Well, that's kind of my 2 cents. It's again, last part of it. Go comment. Go read these things. Be a proactive person in your fishing community, and conservation is a good thing. So go do your thing, right?
Yeah, it has to be there. If it's not there, it just would be people running wild.
Yeah.
Well, something I should talk about too that I was thinking about today. We're getting, I don't want to say the end of the season. We're probably midway in the fishing season now. People fish for a while.
Yep.
But I'm getting all of a sudden in the store here a lot of fishing reels. It's a lot of fishing reels coming in that are broken or damaged and need work to them. And it's funny. I just want to bring this up because I talk about this with people a lot. I've been selling guns and dealing with guns, doing gunsmith work for a very long time. Probably, I don't know, but that's about 10 years now.
Sure.
And that's what most people think of me as doing, and that's where my background is, and that's mostly what it is. But ironically, I was working on fishing reels and fishing stuff for years before I ever met with the guns at all. My father and I used to do. We used to restore reels, a lot of pen reels. We do stuff for charter boats.
Freaking awesome.
And it was just really fun, and we always did it.
Of course.
And over the years, we used to go to shows, we would sell stuff, and we kind of got away from the fishing stuff, and then the gun stuff got real serious. And then when we opened the new store, we were able to have fishing stuff. So we had like half the store in fishing. And people would come in and, oh, my reel's broken. You look at it. I was, yeah, okay. And it kind of
That's how we met.
And so it's funny. That's how a lot of fishing stuff starts. People, looking for somebody looking at a rod or a reel.
Yep.
I don't do rod repair. That's just not my thing. But I do fix reels a lot. So people would come in and they'd bring me stuff.
I think you should start doing rod repair.
And I don't know. It's still a lot of finesse.
I have a broken rod.
But they go through and they bring them in and we work on them. And that's fine. It's not a big deal. But I will say this. If you're going to buy nice stuff, and this is what people have a problem with, you can buy entry-level stuff. You can buy very, very low entry-level. You can buy high entry-level. You can buy, say we got St. Croix rods. They're wonderful rods. They're expensive, but they're going to last you forever. They're great.
Yep.
Your reels, you can buy a reel for $12. You can buy a reel for $1,200.
Yep.
At the end of the day, with the nice stuff, if you don't take care of it, it's going to fail.
Yep.
And today was a perfect example of people who all brought me really nice equipment
In the middle of the season
in
at
the
that,
middle of
too.
the summer, and they're wondering why it's failing. And I'm saying, well, it's because you never had it maintenance in 7 years.
Yep.
A nice reel will last you a lifetime, but you have to spend the money and time and have it maintained every so often.
Yep.
If the reel costs you $200, but then I don't know, every 2 years it costs you $50 to have it cleaned and take care of really well,
Yep.
it'll keep lasting you that long. So that's really something that people don't think about with fishing gear. They think about it with their guns,
Yep.
All the time. People always come in. They buy cleaning supplies for their gun. They want all the new cleaning supplies for their gun. They want to know what to do. They want to take it apart. They'll pay us to do it because they want their guns clean, and they think about reliability of the gun. And if it's dirty, it's not. They'll come and ask me how many shots should it be before I come. But nobody has ever come in and said to me, well, at what point should I start servicing my fishing reel? Until either it's just filthy dirty and they can feel grit in it, or until it breaks. And the reality is, especially depending on what you're doing.
Right.
If you're taking it out every so often with the kids and you're going to a pond, it's probably not going to be that big of a deal. You get away with it, start to notice problems, start stiffing up, maybe have a maintenance. If you're surf fishing in the Outer Banks and you're in the sand all the time and this thing just getting dropped in the sand and dragged through the seawater and all this goes on, and you went on vacation 7 years in a row of doing this thing, it's full of sand and it's full of grits and your bearings are falling apart and everything's falling apart. And by the time you get to me, the aluminum's become pot metal because the salt's anodized is so low. There's no fixing it. So really, if you're going to spend the money and buy this nice equipment, take care of your equipment. You know, even if it's one of those things where you're just fresh water washing it off afterwards, that's a big part of it. And I sat today and I'm doing work for people that I'm literally putting hours into something, and I'm not even going to charge them. I'm not even going to charge them near what I should be charging them for doing it. But because
you're that good
I just
of a guy.
want it to be done. Like it's there. It can be clean. It can be fixed. Let's fix it. Instead of saying, well, really, if I charged you, I don't know, $20 an hour, it's going to be 3 hours, $60, and that's on the the
and by that
scale.
time,
it's just but I don't. So it's one of those things where I tell people all the time, if you want your stuff to last and you want it to be good, just take care of it. Do it, because we really forget that stuff on the fishing side.
Well, I told you, I'm hell on rods. I'm hell on reels. I try to take care of my stuff, but through the fishing season, I think that goes out the window the first fish I catch, and then after that, I don't care. I mean, I keep up with my line because that's a functional part of catching fish, right? And at the end of the year, I bring my rods. I bring rods and reels to you, have you take a look at it, and do the work every year. You know, but I'm also going to change the line every year on every one of my rods and every one of my reels. And, I'll make sure that they are functionally okay. And then, when it's time to go fishing and I feel like fishing in March and it's, 80 degrees and, for like 2 days, I got a good rod and reel ready to go. But here's what I'll tell you. I think you are a unique place as far as Davis Guns and Gear, or very, very unique place. And the reason why I say that is the bait and tackle shops like what I grew up with are gone. I mean, you are one of the dying breed in that aspect, and I hope it doesn't die. I hope more people realize that this is this is a necessary thing, and you keep doing it. But but people in today's society are just, oh well, I'll just throw it out and get another one. And that's nice when you've got a $25 Zebco, but when you've got a, $1,000 setup, those people are a little bit more, thought oriented and say, hey, I'll go get it fixed. But it's in between. And trying to find somebody who's willing to work on rods and work on reels, and rods for that matter, again, it's hard to do. And again, I'm super appreciative that you do it and you're good at it. So, I get that opportunity to benefit from that. But people just, I think that's a good notion. I think people need to bring that back and start realizing there are people who work on them, get it done.
It's one of the first things that comes up whenever we go with a charter guide.
I remember you telling me that.
They find out what we do. We have a store or something. The first thing they do is they start bringing broken stuff out of the boat. Like, look at this reel. I've really had this for like 2 weeks. This fell apart. I can't believe this and that and the other. And that's a real showing of what happens when your reels are used, maybe not every day, but nonstop through the cycle of a season.
Right.
They just get broken down, and it's not because they're not. Some because they're poorly built, but some of it they just don't take the wear well. They don't stay greased well. There's all kinds of issues. There's some really big problems that I've seen that I think I have some neat solutions to. We'll see something with that in the future.
I think so.
But there's always those issues. So I always tell people, think about all of your equipment, equally when we talk about things. We talk about hunting and fishing and going outdoors and all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of things that people take for granted.
Oh God, yeah.
They're like, hey, I'm really worried about my, my firearm. I'm really worried about my optics. I'm really worried about, maintenance of those things. And then they go fishing and they take one rod with them and it goes out and it fails. And they, you tracked out this whole trip and well, what do I do now?
I'm screwed.
So, and that's why I tell people, if you kind of evenly, take care of things, and it's pretty good. I'm not the freak of telling you every single time you shoot your gun, you need to clean it out. Every single time you use your equipment, you need to come home and clean everything perfectly good, but you need to somewhat keep track of it.
And I agree. You know, we'll get into the gun maintenance a little bit further down the podcast, but yeah, I'm you know, I've talked to you about it. You know, how do I keep a shotgun clean during duck season? What's a maintenance free way? You know, so I don't have gun jams. And I can tell you, you solve that problem, you will have a $1 million idea right there. You know, it just in the duck world. I mean, I have high end guns, high end shotguns, and I've shot low end shotguns, and all across the board, when it's 15 degrees and below, things just don't function like they do, you know, at a range or inside or whatever. And then you add just a touch of water to it because you're hunting ducks, or, you know, just a touch of mud, and now you've got but that's a whole different issue. And we can.
No, but that's waterfowl hunting. You know,
Yeah.
the weather's terrible.
Yeah.
The conditions are terrible. It's
The
usually
hunting's great.
wet. It's usually muddy and gritty and sandy, and it's all those things that guns don't perform well in.
Absolutely.
And that's why you see that market for those really, really high-end hunting shotguns.
Oh, yeah.
Because people want it to work and they want it to
Yeah.
squeeze.
I want it to work every
Last thing
time
you want to do is sit there all day,
and mess with it.
go take your shot, it doesn't work.
Yep.
You know, and I get it. And that's, like I said, that's all the way around. That's why what people remember, too, is, you know, like when you go through and you're fishing and you hook into something big and you yank that reel back and all of a sudden
Snap.
the bail comes off your reel.
Yep.
And it's because some screws came loose and you never noticed.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and that happened to me.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so, and I pay attention to myself.
So is it true
and I've had it break
is it
before.
true that you know, fishing, you know, repair guys, their rods, you know, is it like a auto mechanic? Their
No,
cars
no,
run the absolute
so-
worst.
So I tend to take overly good care of the stuff,
Right.
and more out of a boredom kind of thing sometimes.
I get you.
So if I'm sitting around, like, I'll even do like ridiculous things. So, for example, if I have two reels that are going to have like the same kind of line, sometimes I'll run off of a brand new spool of line. I'll
Right.
spool it onto one reel, and then I'll take that spool and put it onto another reel so that it loses memory faster. Or I'll take it back off and I'll spool it through wet so it has a wet. Just ridiculous things that aren't necessarily needed, but I find like, oh, this will work better. So I just try all kinds of.
I get
things
it.
to keep
Hey,
things.
you know, that's how you get better at it. Or you find something new and it's like, oh, I didn't know this worked. You know.
Or maintenance wise, like I'll put new line on, and the new line, especially braid, will have like a plastic coat on it.
Yeah.
And as you're threading it on, it just goes everywhere.
Yeah.
So I put it all in, and I take the whole reel back apart because I don't like all this little red flakes of stuff everywhere. Which is, it's petty. It doesn't really matter.
But you're particular. So
That's kind of how it gets after, and especially too because a lot of people look at my stuff. So here at the store, they're like, "Oh, what do you use?"
Oh, yeah.
Let me show you. The last
yeah.
thing I want to say is, "Oh, it looked real nice before I
yeah.
beat it all over the place. It's garbage." Well, how old is it? Oh, it's 6 months old. It's not going to give a good perception of what the equipment is. So I find that sometimes I'm even more about keeping my stuff clean and nicer than the average
right.
person.
But I mean, you're a St. Croix guy because they're available, and you're an Abu Garcia guy,
Yes.
like high end Abu Garcia.
Yeah, most of the stuff I have is all either Abu Garcia or
One of these days, you're gonna have to bring in the rod and reel. I mean, that thing is gorgeous.
yeah. One day I'll bring on. I'll show some of the ones I have. A couple of nice musky setups, and
Yeah.
then a couple nice bass setups. So I tend to run all St. Croix rods.
Yeah. Well, you can, and I would.
You know, we sell them here. They're nice. You know, there are some other brands out there that are good rods. Don't get me
Right.
wrong. I'm not going to say that there's other brands.
Well,
that aren't
and you need a
good.
caveat. St. Croix is not paying us to say any
No,
of
no,
this
not at all.
yet,
not at all.
hopefully.
I
You're
mean,
not-
okay, I do sell them. You know what I mean? We sell them in the store, but no, I'm not sponsored by them. by
No,
any
not
means.
at all. This podcast is not currently sponsored by St. Croix.
No, but the rods are really nice. They've always
yeah.
lasted really well. When I was a kid, I always wanted one. I always wanted a
did
St.
too.
Croix rod, and I could never afford it. My parents were
Never.
not going to buy me a $200 fishing rod. I don't think it was $200 back then, but it was never going to
Either way.
happen. And I always wanted one. And then when I finally got one, I remember thinking, "Oh, I'm going to be so let down.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick this up, and it's going to be like any other rod." And then I picked it up, and I said, "No, this is really nice.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they're really
You know
it.
exactly what you
Finding the
got.
backbone, and it's solid, and it's good, and
We'll
it's
have to
one of
talk more.
those.
We'll have to do,
one of those things
you know,
are
we'll have to do
solid.
a good, you know, kind of a Maybe we should start doing some some videos of rods, what to look for in a good rod.
Maybe next week what we'll do is I'll go bring some reels in, and like we did last week
for the lures.
We'll talk a little bit about that.
That's cool. If I can figure out how to make the cameras work, it'll be all right.
We're getting there. We're getting better. We got two. I think we're gonna have.
We have a
more-
producer.
more than
Anna's
two
our producer
at
this
some
year.
point.
Yeah,
She's got a
no, so-
microphone. She won't talk.
She's got
on
a
it.
microphone.
She's got it.
Yeah. She's
Well-
just nodding at us.
Before we run out of time,
Yeah.
we still have a little bit of time. Before we run out of time, we had to talk about the most important thing
Oh God. Here we go.
that's possibly happened.
Has nothing to do with Maryland's crab issue,
This
right?
has nothing to do with Maryland's crab issue. This doesn't even do with Maryland,
Okay.
perhaps. And I'm going to put the caveat at the end of this that this could be completely fake and not true at all. This is all based off of Facebook and me doing a quick Google search. So last night I was on Facebook, which I find to be probably the most accurate place to find all information is on Facebook. So with that caveat, I was on Facebook looking at things, and this pop-up comes up. It's not a pop-up. Somebody had shared it. We were fast. Someone shared an article, and I immediately found this article.
This is why I quit Facebook.
Astounding.
This is why I quit Facebook.
So there's a guy, Coyote Peterson.
Which
And-
I will say isn't. The dude is strange to begin
He's like
with.
a little. He's a
He's a test case dummy for- yeah.
kind of Australia. I don't know what he is, but he's a nice guy. I don't know. I have no idea. Yet again, I'm not promoting him or his channel or anything he does. But
I've seen his stuff.
well, he does a show where he gets bitten by
Gets
bugs.
bit
So
by
there's another
awful
show
bugs.
called like Scale Pain or something.
Yeah, okay.
And it's two real muscly dudes.
Okay.
And they get stung, and then they always have like allergic reactions, and it's really dramatic. It's okay. It's not a bad show. I've seen worse. But this Dakota guy, he just looks miserable. Like they both
yeah.
sting him, and he looks sad.
Yeah.
So it looks real believable to me, And I don't really understand the purpose of his show, but he's really excitable, the whole time.
Sure.
He's like, I'm gonna get bit by a spider, and I'm really excited about it.
No.
I'll say, I got bit by a spider one time. It's not exciting, and it didn't go away for like 6 months. But that's a whole other story. Don't get bit by spiders when you're fishing in ponds. But Dakota, no, what was his name?
Yeah, Coyote.
Coyote. He doesn't have a real name. It's Coyote.
Yeah.
That's really his real name.
Yeah,
His
his parents
interesting
hated him.
parents. But Coyote Peterson is in British Columbia, which for the folks who don't know, that is Canada, part of Canada. And he's out there, and there's pictures of this too. You can look this up on Facebook. You can Google it; it'll probably come up. He
Because
found
the internet never lies,
a primate skull.
right?
And it looks like a baboon skull, but it's big. And
Mm-hmm.
it's all old looking, and it's in a stream. And it kind of looks like a bullet hole in it. I don't know. But they have this picture of him digging it out.
Right.
And he's got this post. Now, his post is a little crazy because he's like, hey, I shipped this out of British Columbia, got it past TSA so the federal government doesn't take this post down. That's what he says. I don't think the federal government's hiding any Bigfoots. Personally, I don't really follow the Bigfoot stuff too much. But if this is true, and Coyote
Has found
Peterson found a Bigfoot skull, that's crazy. It's going to be completely different. The world's changed. It's over. Bigfoot's in there. That's all we're going to talk about in the show now is they're going to be having hunting trips to go shoot Bigfoots. That's it.
Bigfoot. We've hit a new low.
But this is all over the news. Like this is going to be, it's becoming a bigger thing. Like I bet if you Google it now, there's like 4 sources talking about it. When I found it last night, there was like 1.5 sources. By tomorrow, 6 sources could be talking about this.
All of them will be what Inquirer and
I'm telling you,
you know.
use your phone and find out about Dakota Peterson and his Bigfoot skull.
Oh yeah.
Coyote. I don't know why I keep saying Dakota.
Oh yeah.
That's probably his real name. I got psychic powers. like
It's
that.
cool.
But no, so yeah, no. it's-
3 hours ago, scientists dismissed
See?
Coyote Peterson's large primate skull discovery as fake.
Where did you find that? What website did you?
That's on Google.
Oh, you should tell me that before I talked about it. Did they really?
Breaking news.
Did you send? Can you send that to me really quick so I can see
Yeah,
it?
of course.
So sad. What a terrible thing.
What's the world become if they're faking coyote? Well, what did he hide a ape skull? And I don't even know. Who knows? If it's not, it's probably the whole thing is fake.
Either way, it's cool. I mean,
What scientist dismissed it? Is it the guy? Bill Nye? Was it Bill Nye that dismissed
hey,
it?
hey, hey, be careful. Bill Nye, the science guy, is a
Scientists premise
He was a staple.
fake.
The skull is likely a cast, experts say.
Oh, but so this isn't no. So first off, let me reiterate this. Anna found this on livescience.com. I don't know about this place, but they haven't seen the skull. They're saying it's probably a cast. So there's still likelihood that this is a real Bigfoot cast. I mean, a real Bigfoot skull. It's possible.
Anything's possible, right?
I mean, how? So what did you?
I don't know that we could find a Bigfoot expert to come onto the podcast.
I don't think there's such thing as a Bigfoot expert.
I don't know.
I think that's part of the problem.
Have you seen the shirt, the Bigfoot shirt? I love this. It's one of my favorite
I'm
shirts ever.
gonna say that there's probably more than one
Yeah,
Bigfoot
no.
shirt.
So there's one, and it's Bigfoot hide and seek champion, 20 years in a row.
Not now because they found his head.
Oh my goodness, no.
Anna, how many things came up when you Googled it?
Oh, she's looking.
When I first started, there was very, very little, and it even said on Google like this is breaking
So,
news. It's
breaking news.
It said this could change. Go ahead, Anna. What you got?
Uh-huh. She's still looking.
There's a lot. I mean, there's at least 10
big-
hits.
What's the electric car guy's name?
Elon Musk.
Yeah, what's he say about it?
He just blew up Twitter.
If Elon Musk says something about it, then I'm gonna have to.
He's too busy blowing up Twitter. But
Doesn't he own Twitter?
no.
I don't know anymore.
Yeah, no, that's a whole big deal. And yeah, he had something today about that. But that is not about what the hunting quest is about.
So, no, but Bigfoot skull
But
kind of
Bigfoot,
fits.
okay, all right, I could get that.
Sort of fits in there. So
Yeah.
no, so we're just gonna put that on the back burner. You go ahead and
We'll see what we come up
decide
with.
what you think it is as a whole, as a community. But just remember that there could be it's not there anymore. They could have taken a skull of a Bigfoot from British Columbia, snuck it past TSA, got it back to wherever Cody lives. I'm assuming it's probably like Chicago. Brought it over there, and they have it there, and it's getting done by research, and you don't even know, and it could be scientifically mind blowing. But I tell you, the pictures you should
I want you to be right.
you should
just so
at
you know.
least
I want you to be
look
right.
at the pictures. They're really good looking pictures. They
All right.
kind of look.
It looks like it's set up.
I don't want to say they're really good quality. Is
Okay.
all I'm going to say. But he's got really nice cameras.
there you go.
Look, we don't even have a TV show, and our cameras I think are probably really nice.
Sure.
So I mean, he's probably got really nice cameras with him all the time. if he does his next show where he gets bit by a Bigfoot,
Right. Hey, there you go.
there you go.
How do you? Yeah, I
Rated
wonder,
from 1 to 10.
I wonder how you take care of anaphylaxis with a Bigfoot bite.
Die.
Right. I think so.
I don't think you get bit by a Bigfoot and go away. I don't think
Right.
Bigfoot bites. I think it just kills.
Omnivore.
Jurassic Park.
Somebody will find the DNA somewhere and they'll try to recreate it. But
It's really sad. I was really excited about this.
yeah,
I feel like Anna kind of
hold out hope.
ruined my whole Bigfoot thing here.
Kind of okay with that, but hold out hope.
I had literally. when
I know
saw
you were
this
excited when
last
I when I
night,
came in today.
I
was like,
thought, wow, how cool! I must have sent that link to like 1,000 people, and 2 people commented back to me,
right.
and they didn't even comment words. They just sent back like emoji faces and like thumbs
Right.
up, like "Cool, Mark." Who cares?
Yeah, it's okay.
So I think I might be 1 of 3 people apparently that believed it. Well, I didn't. I don't think I believed it. Was
You wanted to believe.
hoping it
Yeah,
to be true.
I'm all right with that.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm good with that. How do you follow up a Bigfoot comment? How do I come back with that? I don't think I
You
can.
tell me that a guy named Wolf Peterson,
No.
a guy named Wolf Peterson found the skull of a what's a Loch Ness monster.
Oh no.
If you had that, then that would be Coyote Peterson finding the skull of a possible Bigfoot.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I can
I
tell
don't
you about invasive catfish that we talked about and how they're killing blue crabs in the bay and causing all of that stuff. But
But do we even know? So did we decide? Was it crabs? No, sorry. Was it blue crabs? Was that what they were saying? It was. We really don't have.
So I got the article. The article I've got in front of me is from Baltimore Sun, right? And they said the state fishery managers moved the limits on first time that they've moved limits on Maryland crabbing industry. They didn't say blue crab specific, but further in the article they kind of talk about it, and they talk about crabbing in the Chesapeake Bay, including first ever limits on how many bushels of male blue crabs watermen can haul in each day in response to the troubled decline in the population of the beloved crustaceans. And it goes in. I mean, obviously, we talked about the female aspect of crabs and why you don't keep them. And there's I don't know why anybody would eat a female crab.
Some
It's
people
gross.
do. I
It's
mean,
gross.
so we were out with a charter boat not too long ago. I don't remember which one it was.
Right.
And they were talking about eating crabs, and I said something to the maid about eating. Oh, they were talking about going to a buffet,
Yeah.
and they were like, "Oh, they got crabs." I was like, "Oh, it's probably got female crabs, and doesn't it?" And the guy was like, "What's wrong with female crabs?" And I was like, "I won't eat female crabs." And the other guy, both of them were like, "Oh, I eat female crabs," and I was like, "Ugh, "I don't eat female crab." Maybe I'm just.
All right. So first of
picky.
all, y'all are weird. I bet you love Old Bay too, right?
I didn't say I don't eat female crabs.
No, just crabs in general. You like crabs and you like Old Bay.
I see, crabs are a lot of work to me for what they're
Yeah,
for what
they
you
are
get out of it.
way too much work.
I like crab dip.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I like.
I don't have
crab
to do anything with it.
Imperial. I
Right.
like crab cakes.
I like Alaskan king crabs.
I just don't.
like.
I'm not a big
you know,
fan of sitting picking a crab
I
all
know.
day. I'll do it.
No, I
But it's just
find
not
it.
that- it's not that amazing.
I get tired and my fingers get like my little hands that you talk about.
You do have little hands.
Yeah, my little hands here get they
Put it up. Show.
yeah, see.
Mental.
But my little hands here, they decide that they're going to get beat up and cut up, and it's just awful. And I don't know.
The camera actually makes them look really big. You should hold them up in front of the camera again.
Yeah, everything. Yeah,
It's forced perspective.
exactly. It's how you take a fish picture, right?
Not true.
Hold it out, about arm's length, and everybody looks like, oh, this thing is huge. No, but yeah, I don't find the draw in Maryland crabs. I mean, it tastes great. Crab cakes, great. All that's great. I just,
But you eat crawfish.
oh yeah,
Is that the same kind of thing?
no. You know how to, if you know,
Never ate one.
really.
And not because I didn't want to. It never happened.
Oh, we will change that.
No one ever. I was never like
Oh no,
somewhere
no,
and they said, "Here, you want a crawfish?"
Nope, we will change that.
I may have been places they were, but just didn't.
No, you got to have.
I just
legit-
didn't do it because I didn't know what I was doing. Kind
Oh,
of
it's
thing.
easy.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. No, and there's some
I
people.
assume you just kind of snap the tail off. And
You
eat
do,
it.
and so if you're a real connoisseur of crawfish, you break the tail off. I mean, they're mini lobsters, right? You break the tail off, you suck the head,
No.
yeah, and then you, like my brother can do it faster than I can, but you pinch the tail, and the meat just slides out, and it's like eating a shrimp. I mean, it's
I like shrimp.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a very big shrimp person.
so it's like a better tasting shrimp, and that's hard to say because I'm a big shrimp fan. I mean, big shrimp fan.
I like rock lobster.
Okay,
I
yeah,
find a rock lobster is in between that Maine lobster and a
Yep.
shrimp.
yeah.
It's not as light as a Maine lobster, but it's not as firm as a shrimp.
Yeah.
I find that to me is the pinnacle.
Yeah, I
think
can see
of,
that.
of everything. I kind of like that the best.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, they're not bad.
Yeah. But yeah, crawfish, we'll have to fix the crawfish thing. I mean, no offense to anybody who can fix crawfish around here, but you really got to have, you got to have a Cajun cook you some real crawfish. And we'll
Okay,
do-
that's what I've seen it with like the Chinese buffet, and that's what I've been.
Crawfish?
And I'm like, I'm not eating those at Chinese buffet. Like I know they're not that great.
Really? They have crawfish in Chinese buffet?
Yeah.
I haven't been in a Chinese buffet in a long time. I didn't know they had crawfish. So,
Well, I don't think they all. I don't think it's a rule per se.
okay.
I think.
Just,
I think that some may have it, some may not. It's not like rice. Like they're all gonna have rice for sure.
right.
But the crawfish, I think, it's like they do like those little steam pots or whatever. Actually, the place we go to, they also don't they have like some kind of seafood thing too? Yeah, I think they're like a little more than the average one. But
I would say if they got crawfish.
but see, they got female crabs there. Gross.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't eat female crabs.
Soft shells.
I see. That's good. That's a good meal.
Oh, no.
Why? What's wrong with it?
I don't know. It's not me.
Yes, but you're not eating the guts. People
I
think
get
you're
it.
eating
No,
it because
I get it.
you cut it out.
No, I get it.
It's
I
just
get it.
meat.
I know. I don't know. I'm not a soft shell crab.
See, then you shouldn't be in the water.
Oh, well,
If you go to the water, you gotta eat the crab,
I've eaten it.
the whole thing.
No, I've eaten them. I've
Big old
eaten soft
fried-
shells. I've eaten them
fried-
before.
Fried spider.
It's just I don't know. To me, it's just I like.
I still don't know who ate a crab in the first place.
Yeah, I always wondered that.
Yeah.
Who thought it was a good idea?
know.
Oh, this is horrible. You got to try it.
Yeah.
Get back to that level.
It's like hermit crabs. You need a hermit crab?
no.
What's your hermit crab and a crawfish?
One lives in one changes shells.
I'm
Hell, I
just
don't know.
saying, there's really no difference. You're not gonna, you eat conch.
Oh
am
yeah,
I saying
conch
that
fritters.
right? Conch fritters.
Oh yeah. That's money. That is money. You can't go wrong.
Everything down there is good.
Conch fritters are the
Yeah.
bomb.
Down in southern Florida.
Well, Florida not so much. You get to Virgin Islands.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah,
Keys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything down there.
Yeah.
I could eat everything out of the water down
Oh,
there.
yeah. Agreed.
It's all pretty good.
Agreed. I've never had a bad meal per se. Not that I can think of, but
Down there?
Yeah, down there. I've had bad restaurants, but I've never had fish is fish to me. Even catfish that you don't eat.
They don't eat catfish in the Keys.
Yeah, they do.
There's no catfish there.
There's catfish.
There's not.
Yeah, they import it.
There's grouper.
There's a lot of grouper.
I'm trying to think if I've ever had a bad meal down in the Keys.
I've had a bad meal from I've had a meal from a bad restaurant in the Keys, but I think it was just the restaurant, right?
I just eat the same 3 places, so it never really becomes a problem.
Yeah, no.
I remember the first time I went down there, I was really hungry. We were driving from Miami.
Right.
And I was like, I gotta get something to eat, and it was like a McDonald's. So I was like, I'm getting a fillet of fish. Be in the mood while we're down here. If I eat it, I'm eating some fish. Now it's funny that you make that face. Now this last thing I'll talk about.
Yeah.
I watched a show years ago about cod.
Okay.
And they have these giant ships. I've never seen them.
Right.
And they're trawlers, and they go through and they catch cod, huge amount of cod, and they
Right.
pull it up, and they pull it in, and they process the fish on the boat.
Yep.
It's like a whole big thing. So they go through, they cut it, they process it, and they. You ever see a light table, like
Yeah.
for chicken eggs or something like that? Or
Yeah.
So they have light tables, and when the cuts go through, they cut them into fillets. And if there's any imperfection in the meat, and I don't mean imperfection as in it's bad, but the muscle's not laying right.
Right.
There's
It's not
a
aesthetically
vein line. It's not
pleasing.
aesthetically perfect.
Yeah.
Then it goes into that's how they do it. So the most aesthetically perfect
Yeah.
is the best piece.
Right.
McDonald's buys the highest cut of cod from those companies that
No.
exist. True story.
Really?
Yes. So when you're eating a hunk of cod cut from McDonald's, it is the highest cut of cod you can get off of those mass boats. Think about it. If you've ever had a fillet of fish, it's always perfect
Yes.
because
I
it's
will
and it's
agree.
not fake. It's
Right.
real.
No,
I
I
mean
get
they're
it.
not
I
not
get it.
bleaching it.
And I understand. It's
And the reason is because they buy so much.
Right.
They,
I mean,
they're
and-
going to set the price.
Right.
It's not like they're paying money for
Right,
high
no.
cut. They're going to set the price.
Right.
Because
For
they're gonna
everybody
buy
else.
so much of the
absolutely,
cash. Yeah.
absolutely. And the same can be said about the meat industry when they buy hamburgers and stuff like that.
Well, they
French
always
fries
say
from
that
the
those
potatoes,
places
things
like
that.
McDonald's and stuff, that the food quality is usually pretty decent because they have so much to lose.
Yeah.
So
Well,
they
it
don't-
has to be consistent.
You know,
when
if-
you go to you order a quarter pounder with cheese from the McDonald's in Leesburg, and you go to the McDonald's in Purcellville or wherever, you're going to get the exact same burger. It's going to taste the exact same way, and you're going to get the French fries that taste exactly the same way with the milkshake that tastes exactly the same way across the states. So,
sometimes.
more times than not.
It
So,
should be. All right. Well, I think this is going to probably wrap it up. We're running out of time, but
Yeah.
I will note this. So we're going to have this podcast on today. Obviously, it's wrapping up. Should be on. It should cycle through. People should watch it. I don't know. We'll see what happens tomorrow. We might upload stuff
Yep.
before the podcast if we get some cool videos
from the bow fishing.
Bow fishing.
Absolutely.
I don't know how it's going to be. We are fishing from night to night,
Yep.
so it's going to start dark. We're going to end dark. I don't know how our camera's going to work and all that stuff. So
Yep.
we'll see if it does look cool. We get some
Absolutely.
cool shots. That's great. If not, we'll talk to you guys about how it all went through.
Yep.
That'll be key. So we might get, I'll call it a bonus video
Absolutely.
in
Absolutely.
the mix, and we'll see how that goes.
Oh, one other thing, and this was something that I've got a lot of emails about and questions and texts and everything. So one of the things everybody's asking is how do you get on the podcast, right? If you want to come talk,
Oh, people that want to talk?
yeah, people
Yes,
want to talk.
yes,
You got something interesting to talk about, you want to discuss. Again, info at thehuntingquest.com. Somebody will get back to you. You can find us on Instagram as well, Facebook, Twitter. I think all the major social media platforms have got us. Or the other thing is, how do you, if they wanted us to discuss stuff, like I had somebody want to talk about stripers, right? That was today. I don't know enough about stripers. I know the subject that they want to talk about. If you want us to talk about something, you want us to research it, comment, email, whatever. We'll bring it up.
Yeah, and especially too, if you want to get on the show talk about something, we're starting to schedule out
Yep.
people on. I think we already have a good list of people that's going to go.
We do.
And I don't say a good list as if keep submitting. If you want to get on,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
fine. But I think we're going to have some people on about kayaking, and then about muskie fishing, and then some other captains, and then some guys about trapping, and some other things.
Yep.
So some really, really interesting content. And just like you said,
Yep.
reiterate that.
And then the hunting season is right around the corner. So we got some really good folks already lined up for hunting. Duck season, deer season, turkey season is, we're not going to bring up anything about fall turkey season, but, definitely spring around the corner. So I think we're getting a lot of folks that want to come on, people that are coming on, they're scheduled out. So
Yeah, and if you have, speaking of the hunting season coming up, if you're getting ready to do your hunt this season coming up and you want your rifle sighted in, start bringing them in August because we
good
start
choice.
getting backed up pretty quick in the store. So,
yep, absolutely.
They usually do them pretty quick, but once we start getting 10 or
Yep.
so behind, it takes a
And
while.
the store is where,
Bristol,
right?
right off of Brandon Court, it's off of Hurst Road. So that information should be there everywhere. So you can Google Davis Guns and Gear and Google, it'll pop up.
Absolutely.
So with that being said, I think that's it. Remember, like we talked about before, take the kids out in the wilderness, fishing, doing hunting, stuff like that.
Absolutely.
That's the future of it, and that's what's important.
Cool. All right, folks, have a great one.
You've been listening to The Hunting Quest. No matter how crazy, high-tech, or lazy the rest of the country gets, we will always be hunting and fishing. If that's you, you've found your new family. Thanks to our sponsor, Davis Guns and Gear. Thanks for listening to the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. Reach out to us by email at info@thehuntingquest.com and check us out on Instagram and YouTube at The Hunting Quest. See you next time.